Metal Gear Solid is my favourite game of all time. And it's strange because I've never actually made a full video dedicated to it. Not because I didn't want to, but because I've always been worried I wouldn't be able to explain what this game means to me in a way that feels genuine. But at some point, you just have to talk about the things that shaped you. So today, I want to share my experience with Metal Gear Solid. And hopefully, you'll share yours in the comments too. My first memory of the game isn't even me playing it. It's me standing in my uncle's living room, watching him fight Sniper Wolf. I remember the codec screen popping up and being completely drawn in. The faces barely moved, but somehow felt expressive. The voice acting sounded natural in a way I hadn't heard in games before. It was the first time I realised that games could sound like this, like actual performances. That moment stuck with me. It planted a seed long before I ever touched the controller myself. Eventually, I got a copy of Metal Gear Solid. I honestly can't remember how. Maybe my uncle lent it to me, maybe my parents bought it, but I do remember sitting in my childhood bedroom, starting the game, and instantly realising this was something special. I was probably around 7 or 8, definitely too young to understand the political stuff or the deeper themes, but old enough to be completely absorbed. Snake's look and voice, Ocelot spinning his revolvers, the Cyborg Ninja's entrance. I was completely taken aback with his character design, and still am, to be honest. Everything felt larger than life. And the music, that cold, choral sound. It gave the game a tone that I had never heard before. It wasn't just background noise, it was part of this world. And the way the song The Best Is Yet to Come was carefully sprinkled throughout the game evoked a sense of emotion I had never experienced. It's arguably the best end credit song of any video game. The lyrics are in Gaelic, but I've never looked up the translation, as I feel like it would take away from the otherworldly feeling of the song. There's something about the way the game blends its visuals, its sound, and its pacing that creates this atmosphere you can't really replicate. Even now, when I hear certain tracks from the soundtrack, I'm instantly transported back to that childhood bedroom. On my first playthrough, I submitted during Ocelot's torture. My thumb was tired from mashing the circle button. I didn't think it mattered, and I just gave in. And then, I got the ending where Meryl dies. It was the first time a game made me feel genuinely responsible for what happened to a character. Snake's reaction, the tone of the ending. It hit me in a way I wasn't expecting. And even though I was too young to fully understand why it affected me so much, I knew it mattered. It was one of those moments that stays with you long after the credits roll. Even now, I can't bring myself to choose that ending again. Metal Gear Solid's main theme is genes, whether we're defined by what we inherit. As a kid, that went straight over my head. I was just there for the stealth and the cool characters. But as I replayed the game over the years, the message started to land. Everyone has moments where they wonder if they're destined to carry the flaws of their family with them or make the same mistakes. The game's message, that your genes don't define your future, stuck with me more than I expected. And playing the game now as a father myself, I've discovered even more depth in that theme. It's one of those themes that hits harder the older you get, and it's one of the reasons the game still feels relevant today. Playing the game today, almost 30 years later, I'm still impressed by what it pulled off. The voice acting, the cutscenes, the atmosphere, it all holds up better than it has any right to. Most games from that era have voice acting that's, let's just say, iconic for different reasons. But Metal Gear Solid felt grounded, it felt confident, it felt like everyone involved understood the assignment. And that clarity is probably why it still works. There's a confidence to the storytelling that you don't always see in modern games, even with all the technology we have now. Metal Gear Solid didn't need motion capture or photorealistic faces, it just needed a strong direction and a clear vision. Playing the game as I got older, the characters stopped being just cool designs and started feeling like actual people. Metal Gear Solid is full of characters you could write entire essays about. Not just individually, but in terms of the relationships that tie them together. But the relationship that has always stood out to me most is the one between Solid Snake and Grey Fox. I hadn't played Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake when I first played MGS1, but the writing made their history feel completely real. You could sense the weight between them, the respect, the conflict, the unresolved past, all without needing to know every detail. And that history leads to one of the most emotional moments in the entire series for me. During the fight with Metal Gear Rex, Grey Fox appears to help Snake destroy the Raydome, sacrificing himself in the process. In those final moments, he confesses that he killed Naomi's parents, and that he couldn't bring himself to kill her too. Instead, he raised her as a sister, carrying the guilt with him ever since. He wants Snake to tell her the truth, but at the end of the game, even after everything Naomi did to take revenge on Snake, he chooses not to. Instead, he tells her that her brother gave his life to save the world. When I replayed the game a few years ago, that moment hit me harder than it ever had before. Snake had every reason to hurt her with the truth, but he chose compassion instead. And that is just fantastic writing. I replay Metal Gear Solid at least once a year. Not always the whole thing, sometimes I just dip back in for a bit, but I always come back. Despite the cold setting, the snow, the steel corridors, the game feels warm to me, comforting, familiar. It's like revisiting a place you used to live. Everything's smaller than you remember, but the feeling is the same. And every time I return, I'm reminded of why the game meant so much to me in the first place. Metal Gear Solid always has something new to show me. A codec call I missed, an Easter egg I never noticed, a mechanic I didn't realise existed. It was only a few years ago, during a live stream, that I discovered you could fast travel using the cardboard box in the trucks. After all these years, the game still finds ways to surprise me. That's rare, and it's part of why the game has stayed with me for so long. I've played so many incredible games in my lifetime, but Metal Gear Solid is the one I always come back to. Not just because of nostalgia, but because it's one of those rare games where everything works together. The story, the characters, the atmosphere, the pacing, the music. It's cohesive in a way that's hard to find, and maybe that's why it stayed with me for so long. It's not just a game I played, it's a game I grew up with, and it's a game that I continue to discover new things in almost 30 years later. I'm still not sure I've fully captured why this game means so much to me. Maybe I never will. But I'd love to keep exploring it in future videos. For now, I want to hear your story. What does Metal Gear Solid mean to you? What memories do you have with it? As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Hey! Shut up in there, will ya?